In the rugged heart of the Caucasus, where Europe meets Asia, rose the Kingdom of Georgia, a beacon of Christianity surrounded by empires. Its mountains guarded ancient passes, while its valleys connected traders from Byzantium to Persia. Georgia's people, forged by hardship, built a culture that stood between East and West. By the early Middle Ages, this land became a crossroads of power and faith. Pagan tribes gave way to Christian kingdoms that united under one banner. This small realm, perched between mighty neighbors, would one day challenge them all. The story of medieval Georgia is one of faith, resilience, and destiny, the tale of a people who refused to bow to conquerors and built a stronghold that shone like a flame in the storm of history. Before Georgia embraced Christianity, its people worshiped the sun, moon, and mountain spirits. But in the early 4th century, a woman named Saint Nino changed history. Arriving from Cappadocia with only a cross made of vine branches, she converted King Mirian and Queen Nana. In 337 AD, Georgia became one of the first Christian kingdoms in the world, second only to Armenia. Churches began to rise upon ancient shrines, blending local stonecraft with Byzantine influence. Christianity united the fragmented tribes of Iberia and Colchis into one spiritual realm. From that moment on, Georgia's identity was bound to faith. Surrounded by Muslim powers and pagan tribes, the new Christian kingdom stood firm, a defender of the cross in the mountains of the Caucasus. For centuries, Georgia was divided into rival kingdoms and principalities: Iberia, Abkhazia, Kakheti, and Tau Klarjeti. Each struggled for power and survival. But in the 10th and 11th centuries, under the leadership of King Bagrat III, Georgia was finally united. From the Black Sea to the Caspian frontier, one crown ruled the Georgian people. The unification marked a new dawn in Caucasus history. Strong fortresses, mountain monasteries, and thriving trade routes began to flourish. The kingdom's capital, Kutaisi, became a center of faith and art. Georgia emerged not as a fragmented land, but as a proud, centralized Christian kingdom, a rising power that would soon rival Byzantium itself. In the 12th century, Georgia entered its golden age under King David IV, known as David the Builder. A brilliant general and reformer, he expelled Seljuk invaders and restored Georgia's independence. David reorganized the army, strengthened the church, and encouraged scholarship. He founded the Gelati Academy, known as the Second Athens, where theology and science flourished. Under his reign, the kingdom reached from the Black Sea to Armenia. David's leadership made Georgia a beacon of Christian power in medieval Eastern Europe. He died in 1125, leaving a legacy of unity, learning, and faith. The foundations he built would carry Georgia to its greatest glory under his successor, Queen Tamar. In 1184, a young woman ascended the Georgian throne, Queen Tamar. Her reign became the pinnacle of medieval Georgia's glory. At first, nobles doubted her strength, but Tamar ruled with wisdom and steel. She reorganized the court, reformed the church, and secured loyalty through fairness. Under her command, Georgia expanded its borders, from the Caucasus Mountains to the shores of the Caspian. Her armies triumphed in Armenia and northern Iran, while her diplomacy brought peace and prosperity. Queen Tamar's reign symbolized divine justice,
a golden era of faith and culture that made Georgia the brightest Christian kingdom in the East.
Under Queen Tamar, Georgia became not only a military power, but a spiritual and cultural center. Monasteries rose high in the mountains, their frescoes glowing with color and devotion. Scholars translated Greek and Arabic works, creating bridges of knowledge. The Gelati Monastery continued as a beacon of wisdom, attracting philosophers and theologians. Christianity infused every aspect of life, from the arts to architecture. The cross crowned every hilltop, symbolizing both protection and pride. This blend of spirituality and statecraft defined medieval Georgia, a nation guided by faith, knowledge, and divine purpose.
Queen Tamar's army was one of the most formidable in medieval Eastern Europe. Commanded by her trusted general, David Soslan, Georgian knights rode under the cross of St. George. Their discipline and valor became legendary. Victories at Shamkor and Basian secured Georgia's supremacy in the Caucasus. The banners of Christendom flew high over conquered fortresses. Yet Tamar's wars were not of conquest alone. They were seen as divine missions to protect Christian lands from invasion. The Georgian army became both sword and shield of the faith, ensuring that the kingdom remained a fortress of Christianity in the East.
Tbilisi flourished as a royal capital under Queen Tamar. Its markets bustled with traders from Byzantium, Persia, and the Silk Road. The city's churches stood beside caravanserais and baths, blending Eastern and Western styles. The Mtikwari River reflected the domes and bridges that symbolized Georgia's wealth and tolerance. Artisans, poets, and scholars made Tbilisi a hub of culture. The harmony of Christian devotion and cosmopolitan life defined this medieval metropolis. In Tbilisi streets, one could hear many languages, yet all bowed before the same cross that guarded Georgia's heart.
During the 12th and 13th centuries, Georgia experienced a true cultural renaissance. Poets such as Shota Rustaveli composed masterpieces like The Knight in the Panther Skin, a symbol of Georgian chivalry and love. Artists painted frescoes that glowed like divine visions. Architecture reached new heights with cathedrals carved from mountain stone. Music, literature, and theology blended to create a distinct Georgian identity. This was not merely imitation of Byzantium. It was a civilization with its own voice, born from faith and forged in the Caucasus winds. By the early 13th century, Georgia's power stretched across the Caucasus and beyond. Allied with the Crusader states and respected by Byzantium, it stood as the strongest Christian kingdom in the East. Gold flowed through its trade routes, and its armies were unmatched. Pilgrims and scholars alike marveled at Georgia's prosperity. Queen Tamar's successors inherited a land of strength and pride. Yet even at its height, shadows loomed on the horizon. From the steppes of the east, a new storm was gathering that would soon engulf the world. In the 1220s, the Mongols descended upon the Caucasus like a storm. Georgia's armies fought valiantly, but were overwhelmed by the relentless tide. Cities were burned, fortresses fell, and the kingdom's unity began to fracture. The Mongols imposed heavy tribute, turning Georgia from a proud empire into a vassal state. Yet even in defeat, the Georgian spirit endured. Monks continued to write, and churches still rang their bells. The faith that had once united a kingdom now became its source of survival. After the Mongol domination, Georgia fractured into smaller kingdoms, Kartli, Kakheti, and Imereti. Rival princes sought power, while foreign invaders pressed at every border. The once great unity faded into regional struggles. Yet even divided, Georgia preserved its Christian identity. Churches remained the heart of every village, and ancient monasteries still guarded sacred relics. The kingdom's political strength waned, but its faith endured. This resilience would sustain the Georgian people through centuries of hardship.
By the 15th and 16th centuries, Persia's Safavid Empire cast its long shadow over the Caucasus. Georgian kings became entangled in Persian politics, sometimes allies, sometimes captives. Many were taken to Isfahan, converted by force, or held as hostages. Yet inside Georgia's mountains, the flame of Christianity continued to burn. The people rebuilt their churches, painted icons anew, and whispered ancient hymns in defiance. Georgia's struggle was no longer just political. It was spiritual, a fight to preserve its soul.
From the west came another menace, the Ottoman Empire. Christian Georgia found itself caught between two Muslim powers, Persia and the Ottomans. Endless wars ravaged its valleys and burned its villages, yet neither empire could destroy Georgia's faith. In hidden monasteries, priests preserved the scriptures. The people turned suffering into prayer, and legends of saints replaced the cries of conquest. Amid fire and ruin, the cross of Georgia still stood, a silent testament to endurance.
By the 17th and 18th centuries, Georgia's kings fought desperately to restore unity. Kings like Erikli II dreamed of a strong, modern Christian state that could stand against both East and West. He reformed the army, opened schools, and reached out to Europe for help. But isolation doomed his vision. In 1795, the Persian Shah Aga Muhammad Khan invaded and burned Tbilisi to the ground. Yet even in ruin, Georgia refused to surrender its faith or its identity. In the 19th century, Georgia fell under the protection and domination of the Russian Empire. Churches were restored, but independence was lost. Georgian nobles served in the Tsar's armies, while peasants dreamed of freedom. Yet this period also revived national pride. Writers and priests began to record their ancient chronicles again. The memory of Queen Tamar and King David inspired hope for renewal. Beneath the empire's shadow, Georgia's faith and culture quietly endured. As the 20th century dawned, Georgia's people longed for independence once more. In 1918, amid the collapse of the Russian Empire, Georgia declared itself a free democratic republic. The ancient Christian kingdom was reborn. For a brief moment, the dream of sovereignty returned. Churches rang their bells in triumph, and the flag of St. George flew again over Tbilisi. Yet freedom would be short-lived. A new empire soon marched from the north, carrying the red star of revolution.
Under Soviet rule, religion was suppressed and churches closed. Icons were hidden, priests imprisoned, and prayers whispered in secret. Yet the Georgian church survived underground, keeping the flame alive through decades of persecution. When other nations lost faith, Georgia held on to it fiercely. The memory of its Christian kings and saints sustained the people's spirit, proof that no empire could erase 1,000 years of devotion.
In 1991, Georgia regained independence after centuries of struggle. Churches reopened, bells rang once more, and the cross of St. George returned to the national flag. The people rebuilt what had been lost: faith, culture, and pride. Ancient monasteries were restored, and pilgrims walked again through the mountain passes of their ancestors. The medieval Christian stronghold had survived time itself, reborn into the modern age with the same unbreakable spirit. Today, the ruins and cathedrals of Georgia stand as eternal witnesses to its medieval past. From the cliffs of Vardzia to the domes of Svetitsko Veli, every stone tells a story of faith, struggle, and endurance. The kingdom of Georgia may have fallen, but its spirit lives on, in prayer, in song, and in the hearts of its people. It remains a Christian stronghold in memory and soul, where the mountains still echo with the legacy of Queen Tamar and the saints of the Caucasus.